What's up, curators? We're back with another episode of the Legacy Noir podcast, here to bring you journey jewels from entrepreneurs, community activists, leaders, bosses, and baddies from all walks of life. I'm really excited to bring you guys yet another jewel story. And if you started with me from the beginning, I just want to say a thank you. I have space to grow here, and I will be doing that right here on the front lines with you. So thank you for sticking with me. I want to say that the jewel in that is I'm not waiting. We can't wait. Sometimes it's just too urgent to get done. You have to be willing to learn and grow and reflect and flex and stretch right in the process, right in the thick of it. So I'm grateful for you being a listener, whether this is your first episode. Just tune in and make sure it's not the last. Okay? All right, it's a beautiful day. Today we are sitting down to chop it up with none other than Miss Brandy Tyson. Brandy Tyson is a native Washingtonian, a St. Augustine alum, a current HU, Hampton U that is, PhD candidate, and a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Shout out to our head chick in chief right now, Miss VP, who is a soror of Mrs. Tyson. Brandy can begin with a lot of things, but let me start with saying that she is an overzealous, thriving, indefinitely a legacy mom. She has steered the ship of a dynamic career, going from the world of television and music to an education innovator. She's a name known for producing results all over the DMV and beyond. She has successfully led major turnaround efforts at multiple schools. She is currently the principal of Center City Public Charter Schools Trinidad campus, where they are trailblazing at Trinidad. Whoop, whoop. She's also the chief program officer of the DC Scores organization. We're excited to sit with her, love on her, allow her to drop some recipes and to give out some roses and to take it all in. Without further ado, we are going to be joined by our guest this week, Miss Brandy Tyson.
Awesome.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Chanel?
I am so good, Brandy. It's great to see you. Yes, aka I already said that in the introduction. Here for the sorors. We don't want
Here,
no
here for the
shade.
silver. Want to be very clear. Very, very
Yes,
clear. Yes.
we love it. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that you are feeling amazing this morning, first and foremost. But let's jump right in. Is there a self care routine that you have to start the day? Because you don't wake up glowing up like this for no reason. What's your thing that you must
What
do in the morning?
my thing that I must do in the morning? A cup of ice water. Like that's like first and foremost, which
Okay, that's
is
a
what
good
I
one.
have right here. Yes. I For some reason I cannot drink room temperature water. But I do. I start the day with a big mug of like ice water.
Okay, that's great. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful one because I'm trying to
No.
get better on my water.
And that can be a little intimidating sometimes when you have a lot of stuff going on throughout the day.
Yes, but no, I love the intention that is set there. Legacy Noir is all about getting out our stories. And as I mentioned in the intro that you didn't get to hear, but that you will hear later, you are spearheading a dynamic career and have dabbled from industry to industry and done it with such grace and excellence that there has to be something that is really foundational for you
Mm.
that allows you to pour out that way. So I would love to just invite you to begin with what's Brandy's story?
Well, I think, for me, I feel like education, I think, was just like always a safe haven. When I think about, how I grew up and all that I had experienced in my life,
Hmm.
I had a really amazing set of grandparents, like so many people do,
Yeah.
who were able to cultivate, everything that was going to be Brandy. Starting with just a great spiritual foundation, I think, and understanding like what this like greater power is,
Mm.
and how your life is pretty much covered because of that. I think that's like been key to a lot of the success. Not, I think, I know.
Yes.
Um, my parents were incarcerated when I was born, so I came straight from that DC jail, DC general mix of,
Mm.
coming straight out of that space from birth into my grandparents' home. And they were my paternal grandparents, so my father's parents. And they did a great job just like connecting me. I mean, and mind you, they were already 70 plus years old when I came into the world. So,
Wow.
exactly.
Wow.
My grandparents were born in 1910 and I was born in 1978. So that in itself tells you they had lots of, longevity, but lots of wisdom. And they didn't die until, well, they didn't transition. Let me choose that word. They didn't transition
Yeah.
until like early 2000s. So they lived through a lot. They
They got
saw,
to see you bear
yeah,
fruit.
yeah, they did. And it was so
Mm.
strange. It was like the year after I graduated from undergrad, the following year of me like getting a job and starting my career is like then they both transitioned 6 months apart. It was like their
Mm.
work was done. It's like okay,
Wow.
and it was kind of amazing though, and they had been married 68 years, so um,
Ooh.
which is more than some people
Okay.
actually live. Yeah,
That.
yeah,
Yes, that
yeah.
part.
And so, so I think for me, that's like always on the forefront of like doing things with excellence, I think, and like understanding that there is something greater than you,
Mm.
and paying it forward. So I think I owe it to, the people who I think supported me to kind of like support other people. And so I try to make that my ministry to like bring others along. That's my biggest like push, bring everybody
Yes.
along. Yeah,
Absolutely. That's what
definitely.
we all about right here.
Yeah.
That's what this podcast is for. It's to bring everybody up. It's to make sure that there is a blueprint out there that connects with
Yeah.
everyone. If people can see that some of the seeds from someone else's story are familiar to them, I think it has such a power to inspire that just combats that feeling of isolation. It's easy to have in today's, world where everything is social and
Yeah.
instant and just there's a lot to combat. Um, and I don't want to go through the power of knowing that you were born into a set of circumstances that looked
Definitely.
very grim,
Hmm.
meager to say the least.
Yeah.
And look at what God had for you. Look at what you
Yeah.
knew. And your grandparents carried out a legacy to make
Yes.
sure that you would know
Yep.
that greater is he that's in you than any of the things that you might see that you think might be able to shape you.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's
And I think they did a good job, like pushing that into me. My grandmother was adamant, like, you don't allow these things that are taking place to kind of shape who you are. Um, you're going to have the resources, but it's also up to you. I think that is another piece, right? Like, I can connect you, I can, create space, but if you are not intrinsically motivated to, take the torch and keep pushing it won't happen. So I think for me, education gave me the opportunity and the space to do that, even as a young person. I'm a Washingtonian, so
yeah.
um, I went to West. It was an
Okay.
extended elementary at that time. And it was funny, my dad went to West. So we had some of the same teachers, which
Oh
was really
wow.
cool. Yeah, it was really cool. But my dad was a menace. So
So they remember him for all the wrong reasons.
they remember him. Yes, they remembered him. And so I'm not an angel by far, but I did not go all the way left like Leon
Yeah.
would go. So it's a difference. Yeah, I kind of tuck mine in a little bit. But that was a really cool experience because you're walking into a schoolhouse where people kind of know your name. They know your last
Yeah.
name. You know, my grandparents, they understood like the circumstance. I think the school counselor is the most vital like person in any school. My school counselor, Carolyn Brooks, Miss Brooks is amazing. Was
Roses to Miss
amazing.
Brooks.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I was one of the kids who I came there with a lot of baggage,
Yeah.
and trying to like conceal it from like your classmates and everyone else is hard. And so my godmother also worked at my school. And so that was a very big support system. And my principal at the time, which I think is why I try to be a really dynamic principal.
Yes, I can say from
Yeah.
firsthand account that you are an
No,
amazing principal.
I try to be a really good principal, and so I've only went to two schools in my life as far as grade school, and that was West. I went to West pre-K to eighth, and then I went to Woodrow Wilson for ninth, 10th. I skipped 11th grade, and I went straight to 12th grade. But both in both,
Okay.
okay, in both of those situations, the women who were leading those schools were amazing. Women who I could
Mm,
still see today, call today.
wow.
Dr. Mildred Musgrove was my principal at West, and Dr. Wilma Bonner was my principal at Wilson. And so I think they just led great schools. They were firm but fair, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I try to take to heart. Their expectations for us were always really, really high. And, I think going to school in the 80s and the 90s, it was just so much going on.
Yes.
Lots of peer pressure, um, lots of loss in terms of like
Yeah.
friends, because I think it just was a crazy time in DC. It was a lot of people want grow up quick plans,
Mm,
including myself. Like, you're trying to be well rounded in terms of like having academics like down to a science, but then you also have this affinity to street life and what's
yeah.
happening out there.
Yeah.
And I think my parents kind of ushered that in, just based on the lifestyle that they lived
Yeah.
at the time. So I was pretty well versed in both. Um, Sometimes to a fault.
Mm,
I didn't always make the best choices. Um, I wasn't, always an upstanding citizen, because I feel like I straddled the fence a lot in terms of which lifestyle made the most sense to me. Um,
absolutely.
and I'm okay with saying that. But I think ultimately, I understand that sometimes it's just like it's a fine it's a fine line,
Yeah.
to be very honest with you,
Yes.
because I've gotten older. Every industry, whether legit or not, is pretty intertwined.
Mm,
Um, and so when you want to help and support people in one lifestyle, you have to bring in the other to make that connection and to make it happen. I mean, you have to provide people with grace, because I know that's what I've been provided like all of my life. Grace
a
to like,
hundredfold.
yeah, like make mistakes, not define people by the mistakes that they make, and try to tap into people's passion and what it is that they feel comfortable and what they feel good about.
I agree. I think that that is just so powerful, all of what you just said, and just thinking about the way that, if we bring attention to the negative, then you usually are going to get more of the negative.
Hmm.
However, if you find a way to shine some light, no matter how small it is, on the positive characteristics that you see in a person, that little bit of hope, even if
Yeah.
everything else is chaotic around them, that
Yep.
you can use that little thing to pull them up out the mud and show them that they're a flower and that they're
Yep.
something that, was meant to bloom.
Definitely, because I think
Absolutely.
if no one did that for me, then this target that was on my back from day one, would have been the focal point, right? And
Yes.
so It's it's pretty refreshing though, and I think it allows me to empathize not only with my peers who are not in the same situation or had different circumstances, but or some of the same circumstances. It allows me to empathize with, I think, the students that I serve, when most of the adults in the building, to be very honest, cannot. Um,
Mm,
you know, a lot of times, more often than not, educators are generally people who have done the right thing all the time, and they've had little struggle.
yep.
Um,
They've been stewarded, and that's how they,
yeah, yeah, that's how
absolutely.
they've grown. Where I understand what it's like to like not do your homework because I'm traveling to some correctional facility to stand in line to
Yeah.
visit my parents. And not just one, but I remember days that my grandfather would take me, we would go to DC jail, we would be in line spend a couple of hours visiting my dad, and then we would start the process all over again to visit my mom. And
Mm.
so, I didn't have time to do homework. I'm like,
Yeah.
girl, that wasn't really priority. I was
Yeah.
trying to see my family, and spend as much time as I could with them, be through a glass and over a phone, and behind while they're behind bars. So a lot of
Mm.
kids are dealing with that, and I understand being raised by grandparents is different, than being raised by your parents.
Yeah.
Like I said, my grandparents were already in their 70s when I came into the world, so 70 plus years old. There are limitations, even though
Yeah.
they were healthy, and like I said, they were here
Yes.
until 2002, 2003. So they were definitely healthy, but it's still limitations on experiences and, things that they could provide. But what I love about them is that what they could not do, they made sure that someone else could step
Mm.
in, to do it. And I was blessed, like my aunts and my uncles were like phenomenal.
Yeah.
To just kind of like play a big part. I have an older sister who is maybe 7 or 8 years older than me. She just turned 50. We are sisterly, we butt heads.
Yeah.
But I know that she definitely felt a role, that she felt like she had to step up. I think in a
Yeah.
lot of instances, because our mom wasn't there. And her and I didn't even live together, but I feel like when I did see her on weekends or whatever, like she's always been like a super protector.
Yeah.
She still thinks she's the boss of me now that I'm 33, but but I also understand like that was her role for
Yeah.
for a very long time,
Um,
So it's just
absolutely.
been a blessing.
Bless, yes, the grace over those, grandparents that you had to
Hmm.
still make sure that you got to see your parents, growing
Yep.
up. And then for the village, that's a journey, Jewel, in itself. That has not changed about these lives that we lead. It still takes
Hmm.
a village.
It still takes a
And
village.
we all need to make sure that we are not feeling overwhelmed, I think, in a sense, by parents. If you don't have a village around you, and I can raise my hand to that because I don't have a
Yeah.
super village,
Okay.
but not having the village is more of a hardship than taking the time to nurture those relationships around you that I
Yep.
think would not only benefit you, but would benefit your children because they get
Yes.
to see all these different perspectives and
Yep.
lenses and have all this different love pouring into them. And so I think that is just a super amazing journey, Jewel, to really keep out there. Like
Yeah.
it still takes a village.
It definitely does. That's
Yes.
that's gonna that's gonna stand true.
Yeah.
I think through and through. Like
Yeah.
it takes a village. It's no way you can accomplish anything amazing by
No.
yourself. Yeah.
That's it. If the vision is only you, then it's not big enough.
It's not
It's
big
just not
enough.
big enough.
Yeah, yeah.
You carry the same lineage, like you said already, into your building, and now your
Mhm.
students get to have that blessing
Yeah.
of empathy and compassion and love that comes from such a pure place. Because we all filthy, we all would show up filthy
Yes.
if the neon lights, the black lights came on.
Mhm.
However, grace is renewed.
Yes.
So here we go, yet again, able to do it again. So thank you for being so transparent with us.
Oh
Um,
no.
as a educator who has
Mhm.
climbed the ladders, talk about your journey as it pertains to wanting to disrupt what's normal, because I think
Mm.
that's something that's super powerful. It's a reason why I became an educator.
Okay.
And what do you say to a teacher who feels like they want to disrupt and doesn't know how? Or how did you go about leading? I know you are a disruptive leader, and that is nothing but a compliment. And so teach us, Brandy.
It's a problem for some. It's definitely a problem. I don't know if my boss always agrees that it's disruption is the way to go, but I think I will say she's actually my immediate supervisor is Dr. Demetria Gartrell, and it's a blessing and a curse, and I say that because Demetria was the first time I was an assistant principal. She was my principal, and so we've traveled a long way together. I think she has pushed me, she's elevated me, she has been super supportive. in this whole like professional journey. I get upset with her every day because her expectations for me are challenging.
Extraordinary.
It's too much. It's too much.
You
And
got
so
this, queen.
listen, I feel all the time, I'm like, why is it like this? And she's like, she's never want to put anything on me that, she doesn't think that I can accomplish. But I also love the fact that she gives me the autonomy to be disruptive. I think that she understands that I really appreciate experiences, and I think that staff and students have to have an experience every day, not
Mhm.
once a week, not once a month.
Yep.
It has to be every day. Like, people have to want to come into the learning environment daily, and do their best every day. Like,
Yeah.
you have to create a space where people want to come in and be the best version of themselves every
Yep.
single day. And that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of cultivating in terms of like relationship building, and having, I think, people like Demetria, our CEO at Center City, Russ, and, I support another organization as well, which is DC Scores. And so Katrina Owens is my executive director there. And I think the three of them allow me to be my authentic self.
Yeah.
But they like to see how I push the needle forward, in really innovative ways. And so COVID has thrown like a whole new monkey wrench, like,
Of course.
into the whole plan. But I think as an educator, you have to take calculated risk, right?
Mm.
Um, and even with DC Scores, I still serve as an educator. My position as chief program officer is still from a lens of education, and how am I developing programs to support students in school. So we support maybe like
Absolutely.
3,000 kids across the city. And then my role as principal is to continue to like build the the legacy of what Trinidad is, and will be, for generations to come.
Yeah.
And because it's a community school, it's one of those schools where generations of kids, they come through that school.
Yes.
And so you want every kid to walk away, with their own sense of independence, but also having some normalized like feeling about what it means to go to the institution and what it means to be a part of Center City. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's education is just one of those things where you have to understand what's current. You definitely
Mm.
have to be knowledgeable about the past, but you have to have the vision on like what's future. And so you have to bring all three of those things together, and you have to have like a really amazing team of people,
Yep.
to work with you. And so, like I said, I was Demetria's assistant principal, and now she's managing director, and now I'm a principal. But like
Mhm.
all of the movement, I'm just kind of like moving along with her, right? At the end of the day, and my staff, they're doing the same thing. So a lot of
Mhm.
my teachers, or my former teachers, they're either like managers of curriculum for the district in different
Yep.
spaces, or some of my assistant principals have gone on to be principal. I
Yep.
have, my assistant principal who is really the principal, Miss Jones.
Roses for Miss Jones,
Roses
Miss
for Patrice
Patrice
Jones,
Jones.
yes. Patrice and I have been, friends since high school, so
Yeah.
we kind of know, I think, each other inside and out in terms
Yeah.
of, just like professional acumen, personal choice, just all things like life. And
Yep.
so, it's easy to work side by side with someone who kind of gets you right, and they
Yeah.
understand like what would Brandy do, just to kind of think and make choices, from that lens. So
And I'm sure who you trust to do what they would do, right?
yes.
Or you wouldn't have them alongside you.
Oh, I wouldn't have them alongside me.
Yeah.
And so I do. I'm blessed to have an amazing team of people in my building, who we approach the work. We're all leaders. I tell people when I interview them, I don't really hire teachers. I hire teacher leaders, because coming
Yeah.
to work in our building, it does require, a leadership capacity. You have to take that approach to everything that we do, so that I know that number one is done in character, excellence, and service 100% of the
Yeah.
time. And it's done with fidelity. And
Yeah.
your anticipated outcome is my anticipated outcome. So
Mhm.
that's what keeps us going, and that's what keeps me excited about the
Yeah.
work. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I love that because, like you said, staying excited about the work, passionate about the work, is something that I think just adds fuel to your purpose in
Hmm.
the work. So that's really, I think, all that innovation and all of that excitement and all of that creativity that comes from putting a team around you who is excellent.
Yeah.
Make sure that you stay dynamic in your lane, and then allows other people to thrive around you,
Hmm.
which is what I see all around you. So you're doing an
Thank
amazing
you.
job at that. um I don't know. I feel like this next question may be a little redundant, but maybe you'll have something to add to it. All of these things are so relational,
Hmm.
right? So many of these different jewels are relationship based. Do you have a specific jewel that you would say you take into relationship building that might be a token for someone else to take away?
I do. I think transparency is the biggest piece, for
Okay.
like relationship building. I think in any situation, personally or professionally, um, being transparent, I think it removes a lot of anxiety. You know,
Mm,
I think it helps, people become
yeah.
more susceptible to like just trusting, what it is that you're saying, your vision, um, you know, how you're going to support them, how they can lean on you for support. I think transparency for me is everything.
Yeah.
I cannot communicate with people who are not transparent. Um, I think authenticity is real big for me. Jay-Z is one of my like virtual mentors.
Yes.
And I love when, he says he shows up in this space exactly who he is. He doesn't cower, he doesn't change his tone of voice, he is who he is. And I think that creates a level of like trust just
Mm,
off the break, because no one has to like wonder who you are when you leave, or when you
yep.
remove your hat, or when you take your sunglasses off. It's like,
Yep.
this is the person. So I think for me, I have to work with people who are transparent and who will allow me to be transparent. It's really hard for me to put up smoke screens and just unauthentic stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Good for
Um,
you.
yeah, I think that's the biggest piece.
Yeah. Was it always easy to walk in that, or has time allowed you to do it with more confidence?
No, I think it's always been easy. My dad is like too
Your
transparent.
dad is amazing. I have met Mr. Leon on a couple
Yes.
of occasions, and yes,
Yeah. No, my
that's a
my
man.
dad is. I think, my dad, my grandparents, like, that's just who they were. Like,
Yeah.
they never sugarcoated anything for me.
Mm,
I think regardless of the situation, and just because you're being transparent, it doesn't mean you have to be negative or mean or disrespectful, right?
right.
Transparent does not equate to those things. Transparent
Mm,
is just about being clear on what you believe in, who you are, and what you say you are,
yeah.
and being okay with speaking your truth, when other people express ideas or feelings. And it doesn't mean that you don't like them. It doesn't mean that you don't have any love for them. It's just about, I feel it is okay for me to say what is on my mind about what is taking place, good, bad, or indifferent. And I, like I said, and I don't have to say it in a way to hurt your feelings or to disrespect you, but I also can't control how you receive the information either, right?
Yep.
But I am a firm believer in intent versus impact. So I understand that, there is a way to curate your transparency so that it
Mhm.
lands well.
Yep.
And that's something Dr. Gartrell has worked on with me for 10 years now.
Yes, Dr. Gartrell.
Yes.
Yes.
So she would be proud of that. But, it is. You can definitely curate transparency so that it lands
Yeah.
well, but I
Yeah.
don't think I should be a hostage to your thoughts and feelings,
Yes.
when I have my own truth. And I try to get, my staff to move in the same direction, because I can only support people or help them or encourage or empower them if I know what's actually taking place for them emotionally, professionally, personally. Like you have to be transparent about what's going on so that we can kind of move from good to great.
Oh, that was a journey jewel, Brandy Tyson. You
Thank
cannot
you.
be held hostage by anybody else's emotions, fears, and
Yeah,
adequacies because you have to walk in your own truth.
yeah,
So, like you said, just you can deliver with grace if that's something that feels authentic to you, but don't compromise your truth. I think that's
yeah.
that's that was a word. Thank you. That was
No, you're welcome.
beautiful. Yay. These little things excite me. That's why I'm here
No, it's
because in this
good.
journey, in this transparency walk,
Yeah,
it's just I'm getting out of my own way, and so I embrace the stories of how how we each got out of our own ways
way.
to get to
Hmm.
excellence. Because we all, I think, go through that time when you are in your own way. You're still like you said, you might tote the lines. You might
Yeah,
just be straddling the fence of, well, I'm used to this, and these are my friends, and this is
yep,
what's been normal to me. But if you want what's on the other side of that, you have to understand that there's a sacrifice that's going to
yeah,
occur, and it's not something that you wait for. It's waiting on you.
yes, yeah, and it is. And I think with friends, like I hire a lot of friends, people who are close to me, like in my real life.
Yeah,
So it's like my expectation for them is greater,
yeah.
and I expect them to be the most transparent. Um, I expect them to tell me when I'm going too far left.
Mhm.
Don't allow me to sit in poor decision making. Say something ASAP. And if they can't tell me I'm wrong, or if they can't tell me that's not the right choice, then I'm not a good friend. Um, I'm not the friend that they think that I am.
Mhm.
And if they can't tell me those
And
things,
vice versa.
it's vice versa
Yeah.
exactly. So I need to sit and be amongst people who are okay speaking their truth to me, and me be able to speak my truth to them.
Well, you have had so many good lessons. I feel like you've already shared with us. But is there a greatest lesson that you would say you carry with you on a day-to-day basis that is really foundational to you?
Definitely. Take calculated risk. Like, you
Okay.
know, life is about risk taking, but they should be calculated. It shouldn't just be
Mm.
random and, haphazard.
Yeah.
Think about, again, intent versus impact. Like, once you take this risk, what do you get from, what's the benefit?
Mm.
Who does it impact? Who would it empower? Who would it hurt?
Yeah.
What do you do when the risk doesn't go the way that you think it will go? Or how will you take the risk to the next level when it actually meets your first set of expectations?
Mm.
So for me, I think that's a big part of it. I think any program that I've ever created, from like global ambassadors, I do a lot of business with Jarrell Carter, who is the nephew of Jay Z,
Mm.
on like digital media and social content for our kids. We launched a whole podcast
Nice.
group. It was so amazing. We're getting geared up for the spring. My drama teacher, also my friend for 20 years, Keena Lee, is like one of our producers for the podcast and like facilitating it, and just providing kids with like experiences. I have been a big fan of like filmmaking forever. I've really wanted to, and it's so funny that when you think about like as a kid, you think about things that you want to do, what you
Yes.
want to say. I went into education honestly because my dad. Number, I think, like I said, it just definitely was a safe haven, and school provided me with a space, and I got to play school at home with my cousins, and
Yeah.
I worked in the main office, while I was actually in school, and that was just a place where it was another village outside of my family.
Mhm.
So I think education, I was probably just destined to do it anyway. But my dad pushed me to like be an education major. I was so
Yeah.
mad. I really didn't want to.
Oh.
I thought about filmmaking, and that was like something I wanted to do, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
I think, as prevalent in our community in
Mhm.
the early 90s for
Yeah.
your family to say yes, go and pursue your dreams, and
Yep.
go and be, a filmmaker, try to break into the film industry. I remember my father always telling me, like, stop living in your head, like, go get a job, go get a degree. He was like, go get a degree that you can use, like, as soon as get out of school. And so that's what I did. But, filmmaking is a huge passion. I have a great mentor, Tressa Smallwood, who's done an amazing job, like, getting her foot into the film industry and just like taking it by storm. And it's funny because she started off as an educator.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she was an educator in Prince George's County, but she wanted to pursue her dreams, but she took some calculated risks. She started writing books, she started publishing books,
Yeah.
and then that just led to like scripts and filmmaking. And, um, we launched a filmmaking class at our campus a couple of years ago, and she came on to facilitate it. The kids produced an amazing mini documentary.
Oh
And
wow.
yes, it's so awesome. And I think the next project we have, like I said, Keena Lee is our drama teacher, but I think by trade, Keena is all performing arts, to be very
Yes.
honest. And so Keena has written an amazing script, To the Top Would Change. I watched some students perform this as a stage play at a school that she was working at a couple of years ago. And so now we're trying to take that adaptation and transition it into a film. And so that is like a
Beautiful.
big project for us coming up. And our CEO, Russ Williams, is the CEO for Center City. I think like without his support and just like, his vision of like what Center City could be, like none of this like could happen. So because you have to have not only the physical support, but you have to have the fiscal support, right, too. So like to
Absolutely.
pull it off. And so I'm just really blessed to have like an amazing group of people around me on like every level, I think, to like make a lot of this happen.
You do. You were able to dish out so many roses, and shout out to Miss. Is it Tressa or
So yep, Tressa
Tressa? Okay, I
Smallwood.
thought that was what I heard. Tressa Smallwood. Roses yet again. Roses for Mr. Russ Williams for supporting this dynamic woman, and all the different endeavors that you have. And amazing to hear that To the Top with Change will be being adapted, because I happen to have seen it as well and do
Yes.
know that it is a phenomenal
It's a phenomenal
stage
piece.
play. Yes,
Yeah,
I will look forward to hearing and seeing updates about that adaptation.
definitely.
Um, Beautiful. You are doing so much, and it looks so good on you.
Thank
Um,
you so much.
to
I'm so
have
happy.
also been recently engaged. So,
Thank
congratulations yet
you.
again on your engagement. Yes,
Thank you
our
so
personal
much.
happiness
I'm
matters just
excited.
as much.
Yes, personal happiness is the key to everything else falling in place.
Okay. Yes, the professional is good, but
Yeah, personal
beautiful.
happiness is definitely key. I think, just my fiance is like a super cool guy. I've known him since I was maybe like 14 or 15 years old,
Oh,
and just very
wow.
supportive. I think that's a big piece. Having someone in your corner to support everything that you're doing is, with no questions asked, is definitely a big piece. Like just willing to like jump in. I have a daughter. He has kids, and so just making sure like the kids understand like what it is that we're trying to accomplish, and I think it's an amazing feeling. Love is amazing, period. But it's an amazing feeling.
Love is amazing, and
Yeah.
feeling loved unapologetically with no
Yes.
strings is
Yes.
an amazing
An
feeling
amazing feeling. Yep.
to go through life with. And since we, as a part of your introduction, y'all already heard that she is an overzealous and thriving, okay,
Yes.
modern day mama, we gonna end with a little legacy talk about these kids, because our kids are in the same age bracket, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And so, how about we jump right in with my oldest son is 12, and your daughter is,
11. She'll be 12 on March 30th. So she has
oh
been
my goodness.
counting down since August,
Whew,
unfortunately.
listen, that's how Mari is the same way. When are these kids supposed to date, Brandy?
They,
When?
in my
They
mind,
want to hang out with I mean, just your
other friends.
relative. Okay, yes.
I don't know. So it's not even funny, but Jordan, I was in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and Jordan, was staying with her dad, and she wanted to go to the park with her friend in Zolly. And so she calls me in Vegas, which the time difference is different. And she calls me, and it's like the crack of dawn, and she's like, "Oh, mom, we're walking up the street to the park." I like almost lost it. I was like, "What?"
Thank you. I'm just glad I'm not the
I
only
was,
one who is taken
I'm,
aback.
yeah, I
Let's
was
just
like,
say
"You're
that.
walking to the park by yourself?" She's like, "Well, it's just up the streets at the block." I'm like, "Oh gosh!" Like my whole heart like dropped. And she's such a sweet little girl. Her friends
Yeah.
are really sweet, and so it's like I'm not even concerned about her. I'm just concerned about the people around. It's just like, oh gosh. And I remember like I'm calling my dad. I'm like, oh my God, Jordan's going to the park. He's like, girl, go back to sleep. Yeah,
That's good.
he's like, go to sleep. Jordan's okay.
It's
Like
good.
she's
Yeah.
walking to the park. Let her walk to the park with her friend. And so
Mm.
I was FaceTiming her like every other like 10 minutes while she was at the park. She just got so sick of it. She was like, she called and said, we're on our way back to Unzali's. Like, I can't do this. Like,
Oh,
I was like, thank you. And
poor
I
baby.
felt bad. I know, I felt really bad. Um, but she doesn't really go anywhere unsupervised.
Yeah.
And so that was her first time just like going off. And maybe if I was in the city or, if I was probably at home somewhere, I wouldn't feel as bad. But I have to get into a space where she's growing up.
Mhm.
She wants to do things, with her friends. And I'm okay with it. But I'm like the mom, like, oh, I'll take you guys. I never mind taking you.
I'll be close by on purpose.
Yes.
Like I'm
Wherever you
not
want to
there,
go.
but I'm
Yeah.
there.
To the movies, skating, go karting, like whatever you want to do. I do not mind taking. I will be the ride. I will go pick you up, drop you off. Yes, tell the parents it's all good. And so I have to get out of that space where I have to be in control of all of the movements and the activity,
Mm.
because the other parents are amazing too.
Yeah.
But it's just me, my personal stuff, and to let my
Yeah.
little girl go off. Yeah.
No, I'm there too. I phrased the question like, when do they date? But it's really is the real question was, when do you start to let go, or how do you start to let go?
Yeah.
I heard something a couple of days ago that I was listening to that said how they're listening to you up until about age 8 or 9, and then they're watching you very carefully from about, I think it was like 9 to 12, and then from 12 and beyond, essentially they're listening to their friends and then decide,
Hmm.
it's you versus and whatever you did prior to that versus what
Hmm.
their friends are saying,
Yeah.
to them. And so it just is that, like you said, it's not being worried about him, it's feeling like you poured enough in, but
Hmm.
it's just all the variables, all the uncontrolled that is, whew, make
Yep.
you feel like a little stalker mom. I was stalking my son a little bit. He said, Mommy, don't ever do that again.
It's so
So,
hilarious. But she's like, one thing I feel like, to your point, it's like, what are you pouring into them? I feel like she's definitely going to make good choices. And I think she's in a space where she knows, like, my mom is crazy. So I do not want to have to deal with her. Like, let's figure this out first, because I don't want to have to deal with my mom. And I want her to feel like that.
yeah,
Feel that I'm crazy and
that's
feel
that
that,
healthy fear.
yeah, that's the healthy fear. But and I also tell her a lot about like being transparent. And I tell her like,
Mhm.
if something is wrong, like tell me first.
Yep.
Because I'm gonna be the person, whether it's good or bad, I'm gonna have to work through it with you to figure it out and to be solutions oriented. And so she has a great relationship with her and her dad. Like him and I have been friends since we were 9 or 8 years old. So we have a great friendship, and I think it has helped to ensure that she understands like we're on the same team,
Yeah.
like regardless of what's going on, we're on the same team. We do a great job co-parenting. And
Yay.
yes, co-parenting is like the best. Um,
Co-parenting, that's a journey jewel too. Healthy
yeah,
co-parenting, because
healthy
your children
co-parenting is
are
the best.
watching,
It is.
listening, more
Yeah.
watching than listening.
More
Yeah.
watching than listening. And it's true because, I think being in one thing I promised myself that, Jordan would grow up and be in a space of love, like
Yeah.
regardless of what is going on. I've seen too many children come to school and they are so broken and
Mm.
traumatized by unhealthy co-parenting
Yeah.
or no
Yeah.
parenting at all. And
Mhm.
so I never wanted that to be the situation. Like I said, her dad and I have always been really good friends. And that will never change because we want to make sure that she gets the best out of both of us.
Yeah.
And we want her to understand, like, you have families and dozens of olive branches because of
Yeah.
both of us, right? And so you can come to us, and if we can't support you, someone else can. But Jordan's really cool. Like, she's already thinking about, like, oh, I'm going to Spelman. Um,
Yeah.
she's like, I'm going to be a legacy. Like, I'm going to
Yes.
be an AKA. And I'm like, girl, if you want my money to pay for it, yeah, you want to be AKA. Now, if you want to do something different, we can talk about that later. But, she's like,
Definitely.
she's been in an international program, I think, since first grade. And so
Yeah.
she attends DC International right now, which is an international baccalaureate program.
Yeah.
So she continues, like, her, like, language journey. She's really interested in studying, like, immigration law. So that's, like, her big thing right now. Super advocate. She definitely, like, enters herself into different contests. This past
Yeah.
summer, she attended a Peace Through Culture camp that she wanted to go to down in Southwest on the waterfront. So
Oh,
she's like,
beautiful.
yeah, she's really, like, on her stuff. And she
Yes.
generally, like, kind of tells me, like, hey, this is what I want to do. Like, I'll propose things to her, but she definitely is super proactive in, like, what it is, that she wants to do. Like, she has a vision. And I think that's
Yeah.
that's very important. And when you talk about legacy, vision is a big part of it. And
Absolutely.
when I pledged in 1999, my line name, Visionary, it was given to me by the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So it's like
Wow.
they saw something clearly that I had not, like, grabbed onto quite yet, but it was
Right.
there. Yeah, but it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, you would later live up to it as a
will
part
later
of
live
your
up to
living
it.
legacy.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. And Jordan being a phenomenal part of your living legacy, all the intentional seeds that you have sown. Um, Thank you for sharing with us yet again, Brandy. I have enjoyed every little bit of this
No, thank you
conversation.
for having me.
Yes. As we get ready to round out, where do you like to self educate, or what's your favorite thing that's pouring into you right now that you're reading or writing? So, no, we got a lot of
Mm.
books being birthed
I
out
was
of
going
us.
to say right now, I am actually working on a project that I started this project actually about 2 summers ago, um, trying to get teachers to become authors
Mm,
because I think it's needed. We spend tons of money across the country on
yeah.
curriculum and materials that are not always as effective, I think, as we need them to be. But
Because
if
they
you
are
go,
not authored by people who look like us.
yep, and they're not authored by people who are educating children. And so,
Yeah.
even if they don't look like us, they are in the same business as us. And
Yeah.
it's like, how do you empower teachers to kind of use their voice and their creativity,
Mm,
to make meaning, for kids in a way that it is significant and impactful. And so that's a project that I'm working on right now. And we actually have a children's book coming out. So myself, and what
yep.
happens is, like, myself and I'll partner with 1 to 2 other teachers to, like, author the book, and we allow the kids to help us curate the books.
Oh, beautiful.
That is coming out. It's a children's book. I won't tell you the name just yet, but I promise you
Okay.
that as soon as it is ready to hit the green publishing button, your little man, your early childhood little guy, will have one.
Yes, thank you. And we would love to drop the title when it comes full
Yes,
episode. So please let us know.
yes.
Okay. And we
It
will
should be a
deliver that
great
follow up.
experience. Yes, it should be a really good experience. I think one of the things that I am reading just to keep myself going, or that I think is important, and I think everyone should read, Purple Cow.
Purple cow.
Have you ever
Noted.
heard of that?
No,
Purple cow.
thank you.
Tell me this, in your opinion, what is a purple cow?
What is a purple cow? When I heard purple cow, the first thing that came to mind was like black sheep. Sort of an extraordinary outcast that I think of as a positive. So
Okay.
that's my takeaway.
Look at you. Look at you. So, Purple Cow, listen, that's so funny. Purple Cow, again, is it's a book by Seth Godin. Um,
I know him. Okay.
okay, and I told you Jay-Z is one of my virtual mentors.
Yes.
And it's a book that Jay-Z highly recommends, Purple Cow. And Purple Cow is pretty much aligned to what you said. If what it is that you're doing does not stand out like a purple
Mm.
cow, then you might as well scratch it and throw it away. Because
Mm.
if it's not a purple cow, that means that everyone's doing the thing that you think is amazing, right? So if it is not that level of amazing, then you let's start from scratch. So I think I take that approach when it comes to being a principal, being a chief program officer. Like, what are we doing that's going to have this wow factor that people are going to either understand that it's a great experience, want to align themselves with the experience, or want to replicate it. And if people don't want to do one of
Mm.
those things, then that is probably a problem. And I find myself in this space, in this day and age, I should say, because we have social media. You have a lot of people who they may not like physically, but they
Ooh, say something, Brandy. Go ahead.
but they see it, and then they replicate it, or they want to know more. And I love to like share. I share a lot on social media just for those reasons, because I know people, J. Cole said it the best: pride is the devil. So, because people have pride, they don't always reach out physically to get the support that they need, the encouragement that they need
Yes.
to empower themselves or their people. So I just
Mm-hmm.
share a lot on social media. It's like, I know you don't want to call me, or I know you may not want to like email me about it, but here it is. Here are the resources. This is what it looks like, and hopefully that helps people to understand. Like, support is like a phone call, email, text, DM away. And you
Yes.
don't suffer in silence. Like, get
Yeah.
what you need. Learn how to like recalibrate your school culture. Learn how to manage your budget, and allocate funds so that student experiences become priority. Learn how to meet with each individual staff member so that you can know each person for who they actually are, and not just them being in a classroom, so that you can support your mental stability of your staff and help to build their stamina. So I think those are all things that I just like to do just on a day-to-day basis. And I think that if more educators, more leaders, more stakeholders kind of come together, make sure that what they're doing is for the greater good of the school and school culture, or just students in general. If it's a nonprofit like DC Scores that still serves kids, we'd be better, and we
Yeah.
could make a much larger impact.
That is great. We're gonna fortify the roses for Jarrell Carter and for Sean Carter. I will be going to pick up Purple Cow.
Yes,
Okay. I love, love, love it. And if you could name your living legacy, what would you name it?
it would probably be called Ball Image. You want to know why?
I was about to say you can leave that for us to dissect, or you can lay it out on the line for us.
It would be Ball Image. If I could name my legacy, if I had to create from the ground up this like phenomenal work, this phenomenal
Mm,
blueprint for people to follow, to pick up, to read, to listen to, it definitely will be titled Ball Image. That would be the brand. And Ball stands for Building Actual Links to Leadership. Yeah, that's what I would do.
yay!
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. How can our listeners connect to you if they would like to tap in and gain some mentorship, some acumen, anything that Brandy Tyson has to offer via Center City or DC Scores or just you, the vessel that is you?
The vessel that is me. I think because I'm like a super private person, I'm social but private, so my social media pages are private, and I like them to stay that way probably.
And that's fine. So you
Um,
got to get the grace or the goodness from Brandy. You got to pull it right out this message. That's what she's saying.
no, I mean, I do. I often like accept new friend requests, but I'm very particular about it. I think one day, I think as life will have it, it'll transition to public. But if people just want to connect with me, I think sending me a DM to Succeed Fearlessly. Is that IG? My IG, I think, is Succeed Fearlessly. But people can also email me at succeedfearlessly@gmail.com too. Um, and all things school related and, needing some support, I think with school, it would be B Tyson at centercitypcs.org.
Perfect. Well, thank you again
No,
for
thank
sharing with
you.
us. It was a an honor to talk to you and to pull those jewels out of you. I didn't have to pull. First of all, amen to not having to pull. So for just being able to share yourself with us this way, it will not be the last time. But thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll be watching you, listening and learning from a distance.
No, thank you, Chanel, for having me. It's a great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you a little later on, a couple of weeks. Hopefully, we can talk about this book launch.
Yes, yay! I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, curators. Let's
All right.
say peace to Miss Brandy Tyson. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing conversation. I want to harp on something before we say bye, y'all. She mentioned something that our guest last week talked about as well, and that is virtual mentors. In the day and age that we live in, where it can be daunting, or maybe that pride is the devil, is some dirt that's still on your shoulders. You might not want to necessarily approach a person who you are looking up to. It's okay to keep that virtual. It's okay to keep a distance between yourself and them. However, it is great to have something to look forward to. Not saying that you need it, but if you are desiring to just have a little guidance, a little bit of a mapping, a little bit of inspiration, then go seek it. Go find the person who is doing it. Just like we're laying out these blueprints on this podcast, there is someone who has been through a similar situation than what you are going through. There is a business that they have birthed that you can learn something from. Find them. You don't have to like every post. You don't have to DM them 300 times or even once tomorrow. But if they have something that is for you, then go get it. Go get it. Make it your own and make the magic that you were created to create with it. So that is it. I hope that y'all had fun tapping in this week, and we will be back next week with yet another episode of the Legacy Noir podcast. We might have to turn it into the Purple Cow podcast because it's definitely a black sheep, purple cow type of situation, but it's even bigger than that because it is accessible to each and every single one of us. So the purple cow is just like all the black and white cows out there on the pasture. However, he's a little bit bolder. He's got a bit more confidence. He believes just a little bit more. And more importantly, he will not take no for an answer. So go out there, do it, and we'll be back for another legacy talk, some more journey jewels next week. Y'all can find me on IG and on Facebook at Legacy Noir or on YouTube as Legacy Noir TV. And thank y'all for staying tuned. We'll see you soon. Peace.